It feels a little bit like an AA meeting. and I'm looking around the room, I'm a little bit older than most of you, and my journey with mental health problems lasted about 25 plus years of my adult life, on and off, severely. And 5 years ago I sort of got well, and I've been well since then, and I just want to tell you a little story about my first serious episode that I had, and why I'm telling you this story, and why I think you guys are doing such a fantastic job, is because I want to live in a world where we're having a coffee in the communal bit in our workplace and we can say to somebody, do you know what, the last few weeks I've been feeling a little bit anxious, I've been feeling a little bit paranoid, as well as if you were there and you were saying, do you know what, these last couple of weeks my back's been killing me. You know, there's no difference. That's a world I want to live in. And I want to live in a world where businesses treat mental health as importantly as physical health, and a world where businesses have performance indicators that can relate to people's mental health, so they can assess it, they can signpost people, and they can give them the tools to help them get back to where they need to be. Because I would put to you that everybody has been a little bit anxious at some point, a little bit paranoid, a little bit sad, a little bit crazy. It's not 1 in 4, I think it's 1 in 1. So we've all been there. And so yeah, this little story, if I can take you back to 1988, a lot of you probably can't go back that far, but I was 17, and I know that because I passed my driving test, and my mum and dad had a hospitality business, and they asked me to help out, and we were up north somewhere in Leicestershire, I think. So they put on these events, and this was for senior executives. They had a jolly, they had some food, some drink. This particular one, they had some clay pigeon shooting, and I was up there helping them. And the day went fine. It was towards the end of the day, they were packing up, and there was nothing for me to do, and I said to my mum, can I just go off for half an hour? She said, yeah, fine. So I got in the car, and I drove in this beautiful countryside, and I found myself on the top of a ridge, and it was a big valley going down, and it was a lovely day. You probably all experienced that sort of day where it's sunny, those little fluffy clouds are just whispering along. It was beautiful, the birds are tweeting. There was no reason in this world to feel a bit strange or weird. It was one of those happy days. And I'm trying to think how I was feeling. I wasn't particularly down or depressed or anything like that. I was just a bit out of sorts, I guess is the best way to put it. So I got out the car and I walked down this lovely green valley, down to the bottom of the valley, big green fields either side with trees on the top. And I was walking along, and there's 2 words actually that we're not supposed to say in general life, and one that's not spoken about in mental health enough, and I'll get to them later on. But I was walking down this valley, down the bottom of this valley, beautiful day, and slowly but surely I got this feeling that these big sweeping sides of grass were just coming in over me and enveloping me and suffocating me. It was so real and it was so scary. And I never told anybody about this for about 10 or 15 years. Close family, close friends, nobody. And 28, 35 years ago, it's great now. Robbie Williams, Stephen Fry, Ruger Axel get on the telly and talk about bipolar and this, that, and that. Back then, when you were going crazy, you thought you were going crazy because crazy wasn't out there. You didn't know that that was a thing, so it was really, really frightening. So anyway, that happened. I got back up the car, went back, drove home, got home, didn't mention it for years and years and years, and I suffered with other things as well before I spoke to anybody about it. And I guess the thing that really, it's like oxygen. I listened to a podcast that Stephen Fry did. This was a few years ago, and he says it's like oxygen for him. He talks about all his problems, and it's almost like he can't get found out about those problems. It's, the more he talks about them, the better he feels. It's like oxygen for his body. And so this is just as good for me as it is for everybody else, hopefully, and hopefully it's a little bit inspiring and hopeful, because I live a really good life now. And it was great about talking about the manic phases. I had that, and then I had the real lows where I wasn't out of bed for 2 or 3 weeks. And this went on for about 20, 30 years. But now I'm at a stage where I'm quite high up on the mountain, but a nice level. I'm sort of not at the top, not at the bottom, a nice level, sort of 2/3 of the way up, and I'm steady. And sometimes I get my highs, and sometimes I dip down, but I don't stay up there, and I don't stay down there. I'm here, which is a lovely place to be, and I feel very lucky and blessed that I can be there. So that's my story about my first psychotic episode, and that was a visual hallucination. And it was, funnily enough, it was the first and only visual one. I majored, if there was a degree in hallucinations, in auditory hallucinations. I did so well at that, I had loads of them. And that's another numerous stories on that. But the two words that we don't really speak about, one begins with C and one begins with S. And it's schizophrenia. And we need to be more, I'm not fussed about the first word, but the second word, we need to talk about it more. Bipolar spoken about, depression, anxiety. Nobody really gets up there and stands up and says schizophrenia. I had it, I had paranoid schizophrenia, I'm now diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, whatever that means. I haven't had any psychotic delusions for 5 years now. And I live a lovely life, as I said, very blessed. But I just want to live in a world, not for just my sake, but for my kids' sakes and their kids' sakes, so that if they're going through something, it's out there and people are talking about it. The silence has to stop. The silence has to stop. The silence has to stop. And it has to stop so that everyone can just live a more open and have a better quality of life. That's my story. Thank you guys.